Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm your host, Mike Good of Together in This, and I'd like to welcome you to the Together in This Empowerment Workshop, where we have conversations to empower people who are fighting back against dementia. Now, today I'm running the show myself, and I'm not planning to show any charts. So, if you didn't download the handout, please be prepared just to take some notes, or I popped up the link to the handout there, which is a PDF that you can download and print real quick. Otherwise, again, just take some notes. And if you have any audio or video issues, just simply hit your refresh on your browser. That typically fixes everything because, we are broadcasting high definition video all around the world into your living room. How fun is that? Obviously, I think it's fun. So it is intended to be an interactive event. So on the right-hand side there, you see that you have different tabs you can select through, and chat is where you can ask questions and get your answers from me. So, and then if you lose me, just hang tight because I'm going to have to refresh my browser, and sometimes that takes 30 seconds or more, but we shouldn't have any problems today. So today we're going to talk about how to balance safety and stimulation at home when caring for a person with dementia. So first of all, let's say, what is stimulation? I think we all know what safety is, but what is stimulation? To me, stimulation is about anything that enriches them, your loved ones with dementia, that gives them a feeling of accomplishment, it has purpose, and it brings joy to them. Whether it puts a smile on their face or whatever, that's stimulation that we're talking about today. And we want to try to protect that by making the home safe. Now, I will tell you, I was inspired by a daughter who posted on a Facebook, one of the Facebook groups, and she said her dad was outside cutting up a tree with a chainsaw. And just the day before, she had to stop him from cutting through a live electrical cable. Now, how complex, perplexing is that situation? I know many of you are, going through similar struggles yourself, and I have a dear friend whose husband started wanting to cut the ends off electrical wires just because he was trying to fix the computer, and his logic was gone. But so they say, some estimates say as many as 80% of people with dementia are cared for at home by loving family members who just aren't really trained and don't know what to do to make the home a safe and stimulating, enriching environment. So in those cases, it's not always best for the loved one to be at home due to these safety concerns. Maybe there's a lack of socialization and a lack of activities. And because, it's just a really huge struggle to get through the day. And all that caregiver strain and all, we want to try to find a balance. And ideally, once you do, it can help reduce your caregiver strain as well. So if you have the charts and you're following along, we're going to go to chart number 2 now, where during this discussion, we're going to focus on 4 aspects of the home environment for the person with dementia. Those are safety, functionality, a stimulating or enriching environment, and identifying and reducing behavioral triggers. So those 4 things all kind of need to work together to be harmonious, if you will, in this approach. So just a little about me, though. I collaborate quite often with my wife, who's an interior designer. She's certified to help and modify homes for people with changing needs, whether they're wounded vets, older adults, people with autism. And unfortunately, she was going to join us today, but she's on travel. She's actually putting the final touches on an assisted living, not a memory care, but an assisted living facility or community that she just had the contract for. So that's pretty exciting. I'm also been involved with our fall prevention organization in the county of San Diego. So yeah, I've learned some of the home modification ideas from that group as well. So also now on to chart 3, if you're following along there. So homes just really aren't built with functionality in mind for anybody, but especially those with unique needs. And often this lack of functionality leads to safety issues, and it just doesn't make the home environment as enjoyable for any of us. Now, if you're over 40, which I am, and I'm assuming probably most people on the phone are, then it's likely that you've noticed your home not being as functional for you. First thing that got me really was lighting. As my sight started to go away, I learned that it's true. You need more light to see as you grow older, and the lighting in our home was really inadequate. And my wife hadn't had a chance to get her hands on the lighting yet, so it's harder to see. Knobs can be harder to turn. Doorknobs, the round doorknobs. It's almost better to have levers now, where you can just push up or down. That's kind of functionality. Even my little lamp has just this little bitty knob the size of my finger, right? And I got to lean up and turn it. And if I have arthritic hands or something, that's just not meeting my needs. And so I'm just telling you that to lay the foundation for what functionality is, and how when you're looking at your home for your loved one, you also want to just be thinking about your home for yourself as well. Things like not being able to access the glasses in the cupboard. When you're young, it's okay to be getting on a step stool, but as you grow older, there's added risk to that. And, we just want to be able to make those things safer. You've probably already had more injuries yourself. I know I have. More stubbed toes, more trips on a threshold. And the problem there is when we were younger, we're able to catch ourselves and rebound. And then if we did get hurt, we recover faster, right? So many of us are dealing with several injuries. I've always got some ongoing thing now, unfortunately. But so we just want to be able to remove and prevent some of those things, because what happens is people don't make changes until after there's an injury. And then what happens? Guilt sets in and you feel bad. Plus, falls, unfortunately, are a leading cause of a spiraling downward, if you will, from health standpoint for older adults. Falls are really bad, and we need to try to work on those. And then you add Alzheimer's or another memory impairment on top of that, and it just increases the complexity. So if you're on the chat, just go ahead and let me know what's going on over there. Let me I'm just going to pop up a poll here. I want to kind of like to understand if people are, if you're living with your loved one, if you not living with them, why you're attending. And it'd be great to hear from you there. So Susan's online. Susan's helping me out. So if you see her pinging in a little bit more, her and I are kind of collaborating a little bit. So she's with My Alzheimer's Story, and we had her on a couple of weeks ago, or almost a month now. Time flies. All right, well, back on track here. So, Alzheimer's and dementia, as it's not just about the memory. It's about judgment, mobility, spatial perceptions become a problem, the behavioral triggers that I talked about. Those all add up to make the home environment even harder. So we're going to talk about, but with the proper actions, older adults and even those with dementia can live comfortably and longer in their homes while being safe. So today we're going to talk about how a safe and stimulating environment helps people with dementia maintain their purpose, independence, and individualism. So it's all about protecting the quality of life and maximizing their well-being. So that was chart 4, and I forgot to mention that. So hi, Dee. And so chart 5, so what is safety and stimulation, the importance there? So by having the home be safe, it promotes independence, individualism. They're able to move about and do things they want to do, with the caregiver, you having that peace of mind that they're not going to get hurt and that they can, move about freely. And then you add the stimulation on there. I've talked a little bit about that. It's about that purpose, providing enjoyment, having that inner feeling of accomplishment, and ideally reducing bad behaviors, because if we prevent them from doing those things, then they're liable to, get angry and want to fight back. So on chart 6, how do we balance safety and stimulation? There's two pieces of it. There's modification to the home, and there's modification to the way we engage with the loved one. So first we're going to talk about modifications to the home, which starts on chart 7. Now all through this, excuse me, I'm already going to take a drink of water. Now all through this, when we talk about this, we're talking about the indoors and the outdoors. We want that full home environment. So we want to start by looking at the home through their eyes. Many of you are probably parents. You've been through a similar process with an infant and a toddler. And it's kind of the same situation where you got to look at it from how are they going to get themselves in danger, and try to identify those changes. So now the earlier that we can make changes, the better, because then it becomes a normal part of everyday living. Now, some people, probably not those on the phone, but some people, with earlier diagnosis, some people are living 10, 15 years during the earlier stages. And I know people that are out there running woodworking tools and were diagnosed over 10 years ago. So, but if that family goes and they make the changes 10 years ago, then those changes are part of his life now, and be more habit for him to actually be successful in working, doing things in the home. So first of all, it starts with simplifying the home. We want to reduce the clutter. We want to minimize the furniture. So, I look around my home and I'm like, wow, I got stuff sitting here, stuff sitting there. And, while I can maneuver around it, an older adult might have trouble maneuvering around it. So we want to reduce those things. Some of us have collected furniture over the years, antiques from other family members, things that we've bought, but we really don't use, and we kind of just maneuver around them again. So we want to look at moving those things, possibly get them into the garage, into storage, because we want to free up walking paths for people, older adults can get through. And with dementia and Alzheimer's, at some point people start shuffling their feet more. So we just want to, watch out for those things. We also want to reduce the selections. What I mean by that is, if you open up your kitchen cupboard, I did this earlier today, and I was like, wow, I've got 7 different types of coffee mugs collected over the years. I've got 4 different types of plates, and then one plate, set of dishes has the little dish, the smaller dish, this little thing. And I was just thinking, wow, if someone with Alzheimer's opened that up, very confusing. And half of that stuff we don't even use. And so if we can remove that and get it out of their line of sight, give them one thing to choose from, all the much better. So, glassware, dishes, clothing, everyone has clothing they haven't worn in years, and people become very repetitive with Alzheimer's and dementia, so they're not going to be picking out that summer attire that they did 5 years ago necessarily. So we want to look at removing that stuff. So just want to take a look over at the poll and see what the results are. And it looks like the majority of you are living with your loved one. Some of you are here just to learn. That's awesome. I think the more we learn about everything, then we can help others and spread the word, because there's just so much to teach and help with people. So yeah, favorite colors. It's like you want to make sure, Dee, that you're thinking about the choices they want to make, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But so still on chart 7. So we also want to improve the accessibility to things. I believe that we want things to be more in line of sight. Because if they're, they can't remember where something is and they're opening the cupboard doors, we always open the one that's at eye level first. And then we start hunting down here or up here. So if we can put the things that are commonly used at eye level, then all the better. Now, be careful if they're already used to where something's at. Don't go and move it on them, because you're going to cause another issue, right? So you got to use a little sense there. If they don't have a problem, find it. Don't go moving it. But and then things like even handheld shower heads. Maybe that's something we get put in the shower now. So because those handheld shower heads become very useful down the road when we have to help our loved ones with showering or bathing. So the earlier you can get those in, and it's just part of the bathroom, the better. So on chart number 8, we're going to talk a little bit about prevention. So, while we want to start putting preventive measures in the beginning, earlier stages, we want to, always be looking for ways to prevent accidents. Trip hazards are your number one thing, one of your number one things to be looking at. We want to get, electrical cables out of the way. We want to get them out of sight if possible. You can buy cord covers at your hardware stores that you can conceal them. That might help those engineer types like myself who think we're going to fix the computer by cutting off the cables. But if we don't see the cables, there's kind of an out of sight, out of mind situation, hopefully. Anti-scald valves are a good thing to put in place. I just saw on Amazon the other day one of those handheld wands that I was talking about had a built-in anti-scald valve. And so then the water reaches a certain temperature, it stops shooting out water. So you can also turn down your water tank, but and not everything has to be expensive. This particular one was only $20-something now. How good's that going to be? I can't tell you, but that's kind of a nice little 2-in-1 thing to get at one time. So, again about cost. I was just reading on a forum the other day again that somebody bought a little doorknob thing. I guess they make these so that children don't open doors, and you have to squeeze it a certain way for it to work. I can't tell you exactly how it works, but it was like only $5 or $7 on Amazon. And one lady responded, "Wow, I wish I thought of that because I bought a full-blown security system." So not everything has to be expensive. Start off slow, start off creative, see how, start putting things into place. Sensors are great because they're getting more practical and more reliable, but maybe just putting Christmas bells on the door. Something that, if you're out in the country, put a cowbell. Put something that when they open the door, then someone opens the door, you hear it. Now, I know that's not going to work for everyone, and none of this is black and white, right? Everyone's in a different situation, but you want to give these things a shot. The bathroom's the most dangerous room in the house for anybody. So we want to look at, if you can afford it, putting in grab bars, putting in safety features there. My community has a special offer where they help older adults install grab bars for a reduced price. Now you can buy the grab bars with suction cups. I personally won't recommend those because nothing I've ever used with the suction cups held up for very long. So it's better to have things drilled into the studs. So you really want it done right. But you can also, all our life as little kids, we had those little sticky things we put in the bottom of the tub, right? And they're hard to clean around, so they're really a pain. But you can also buy just a little mat that has suction cups that sits in the bottom of the tub. And boy, do I wish when, the Queen was coming, actually my father-in-law was coming, we cleaned the house and got everything, in order. And what we did is we must have cleaned the grit off the bottom of the tub because he got in the tub and slipped. And all we had to do is put that little mat back in, and we would have avoided a potential injury. Now, he fortunately didn't get hurt, and if he did, he was too tough of a guy to tell us. But So those things are pretty inexpensive, and they're good safety measures to take. Again, shut-off valves, sometimes they're not out to where I'd like them, to where they would work on the oven, but we can try to find some of those rugs, and throw rugs are good, or trip hazards, and oftentimes they have crazy patterns on them, which aren't good for people with Alzheimer's as well. So that's just some of those ideas there. So next thing on chart number 9, we want to talk about adapting the home. For adapting the home, I'm talking more about avoiding behavioral triggers and issues. So first thing I think about is labeling. Well, not the first thing, but the first thing on my list, I guess, is labeling things. I want to read these. We have electric stove, turn the circuit breaker off. Yeah, you have to take those steps. Turn the circuit breaker off. Find the gas valve, turn that off. I looked for automatic shut-off valves for stoves, and boy, they just, for some reason, they're not out there. But if somebody's doing a remodel, they have these induction cooktops now. Not the flat. They're flat top surfaces like the electric ones, but these are induction where you have to have metal on the element. You see them on infomercials where they cut the pan in half and they put a piece of chocolate on over the cut, and the chocolate on the burner doesn't melt, but the chocolate on the pan does. And the same thing is because it needs that metal to conduct. It's using induction, and they're still kind of expensive, but they're coming down in price. So if anyone's doing a remodel, that's something to really look at, because you can avoid that flame. You can put your hand right on it; it won't burn you. You can put papers on it; they won't catch on fire. So induction is what you want to look for. So about adapting the home, one of the things people can do is label things. Now, the first thing you think of, let me write the word socks on the sock drawer or glasses on the cabinet. It's actually better to put a picture of the item, because as many of you probably are starting to learn, is while they can't come up with the words, they don't know what words, they can read them, but they don't necessarily know what they identify with. They can still draw pictures or understand a picture. One of my friend's dad couldn't come up with the word hammock, of all things, and no telling what he's trying to talk about, but his son gave him a pencil and paper, and his dad drew a hammock. So label things with pictures of what it is. It's the socks, it's the underwear, it's the bathroom. So outside the bathroom, possibly put a picture of a toilet. And so if they're walking through the house and they don't know where the bathroom is, they see the picture of the toilet, it might help them to find their destination, if you will. So again, pictures for labels can help, not always, but then we also, for adapting, we want to look at improving the lighting in the house. Some people struggle with shadows, and they scare them. They see things in the shadows. So if you notice that your loved one's in a certain area of the room and they start to get agitated a lot, and you can pay attention to that area. And if there's shadows, we want to try to put an even balance of light throughout the house. And I know that's not easy, but it's something to consider. And also, under lighting, we can go with touch lamps, so you don't have to reach up and turn a little thing. But again, now that might work for you, but someone with Alzheimer's isn't necessarily going to remember to touch the lamp. They might bump it by accident, it comes on and spooks them, I don't know. But you gotta, touch lamps are a good thing for arthritic hands. But we really want to look at improving the lighting, and there's professionals that can really go provide a lot of guidance in that area. Another thing that happens is they lose the ability to, when there's no contrast in things, to differentiate about it. You read about or hear about how for helping people with dementia eat, you should put a red ball or a colorful ball on the table, because if you use a bowl that's glass or the same color as the background, they have trouble finding the edge. Same thing in the bathroom a white commode on a white wall on a white floor. My joke is, you think we're bad shots now, wait till then. So you want to look at possibly painting the wall a different color, maybe adding a seat cover or something to the toilet like we used to have in the years back. Something to break up the contrast there to help them to differentiate between things. Mirrors and reflective surfaces can cause a lot of trouble. Some people, a certain stage, unfortunately, they look in the mirror, they don't even recognize themselves. They see the wedding pictures, they just lose that recognition. So if you see them looking in the mirror and it's getting them agitated, they're like, who is that guy? Let's just consider removing the mirror altogether, or any other reflective surfaces that may cause that. I know it's really tough. I've heard some really sad stories of people hugging each other in front of the mirror, and the gentleman got upset because some younger guy or older guy was hugging his wife, So, but if we can remove that mirror, we can avoid the trigger. Patterns, crazy patterns. We've all lived in the home with the crazy wallpaper or the crazy curtains. We want to try to reduce the number of patterns. That's very confusing and disorienting to people. We want to carpets, throw rugs also sometimes have patterns that could be causing trouble. So you don't want to just run and do it, but observe. If you see them having trouble with some of these things, then you want to maybe remove that from there. Started to talk about this, but another behavioral trigger in the home that causes agitation a lot is our pictures. Unfortunately, it's things like wedding pictures of family, where they see these strange people in their home and they get agitated and aren't comfortable with that. Now, I know that's a very painful situation, but if you're going to make the home as comfortable and happy for your loved one as you can, you might need to put those pictures away while you go through this situation. You can also disguise things. I've heard mixed. Again, it just depends on your loved one. Hanging sheets or murals over doorways to disguise them so loved ones can't, don't know they're there. Those kind of things also. Those things help as well. So on to, if you got any questions, please go ahead and throw them into chat there. See, Dee's got something. Yeah, wow. Yeah, they have the delusions and hallucinations, and we want to try to avoid those, as Dee's pointing out there. So on chart number 10, excuse me, I don't know how I saw a 7, but we also want to go through just like we would for a young kid, and we want to remove the dangers, because judgment's a concern, right? We talked about, opened up talking about the gentleman running the chainsaw, and was it really in his best judgment to be using that? That's a debatable thing. I don't know him personally. He's probably instinctually knows how to do it, but we want to remove these dangers such as medications, chemicals, any means of creating fire, weapons, power tools, and there's probably a few other things like we could have put on the list, right? Just the same approach you would do if you had young kids in your house. You get these things put up and out of sight, so that they wouldn't be tempted to mess with them, or they just wouldn't have the means to mess with them. So you really want to take these ideas. Again, they don't all have to be expensive. You start off simple, try things out. If you're going to do a home remodel, then you definitely want to try to get the right professional in there to help you out, because that will make a world of difference. And when you look at the cost of putting someone in an assisted living situation versus keeping them at home, a remodel is going to come in way under that cost. Now, I know a lot of people can't afford either and you're struggling, but if you do have the opportunity to do that, just make sure you get the right professionals. And we'll talk a little bit about that at the very end of this. So, all right, well, that's it for that piece of home modification. And, make sure you walk through the home with a different perspective and look for things that pose safety risks or might trigger a behavior. And don't just, do it on the inside of the house. We want our loved ones outside getting some fresh air too. So make sure you check the outdoors. And when you do this, think about yourself. And because you want your home to work for you also. You want it to be safe for you also. Because if you fall and get hurt, who's going to care for your loved one, right? So we want to include ourselves and be proactive in this. And so let's now we're going to talk about fostering that stimulation in our home. So this is if you have the handouts, we're on the chart 11. So we want to modify the approach that we use for engaging with them. We have to remember. So we have to remember that they have an identity, they have dignity, and they've got life experiences that make them who they are. And we really want to always keep that in our minds as we're doing things to help and assist them and bring a smile up to their face. So a lot of it is their instincts and habits. Right? Dad was out there cutting on the tree with a chainsaw because that's what he's done for 20, 30, 40 years. He's maintained the home. He does that. Mom, not meaning to sound sexist, but we tend to have our roles, especially in the past generations. But Mom's wanders into the kitchen certain times a day and starts futzing around because she wants to prepare meals for people. It's just what they've done. It's their instincts and their habits. That's their identity, and we want to protect that, and we don't want to take that away from them. And that's not always who they are recently. They might be acting out tasks that they did in earlier days of their career. They might have been an accountant and they're looking for their ledger book, or they're a school teacher and they're looking for their, the homework assignments they brought home to grade. You got to try to, go into their reality and help them find the instincts, the habits that are coming out, and embrace those. So it's about who they are now, but it's about who they've been in the past too. And so we want to, just keep that in mind. And Susan, I don't personally have the home checklist. I wrote an article, but I'm thinking about doing it. It's something I want my wife to do, though. But we might do it for the next workshop on this topic, is have a checklist for people to go through. I think that's a great idea. So on chart number 12, so we want to continue to foster that purpose, which brings that accomplishment and joy, right? I know when I do yard work and I'm cutting with a chainsaw, well, I don't necessarily like it at the time, but when I come in and I just sit down, I feel accomplished, right? I feel like I had purpose. And, again, the goal is to not take that away. We don't want this all or nothing approach where we remove it from them and then they have no purpose. And what are they going to do? If you remove those tasks from me, I'm going to fight back. I'm going to protect what I want to do. So we got to, avoid that all or nothing. We want to shield them from the dangers, but not so much that it erodes their individualism. And I know this isn't easy by any means, and I'm not trying to make it sound like it is. But by doing that and giving them that purpose, then ideally we're going to help reduce bad behaviors also. So, that all or nothing approach, it's unhealthy. And, my example, I was talking about my online friend, Harry. He was diagnosed like 12 years ago, and he still just this week was posting where he used his wood lathe and made some wooden bowls. Now that's a pretty powerful piece of, machinery. And you get on there and you got to put your wood in just right, and you're doing this, and the thing will fly off if you're not careful. And I was just thinking, wow, what if his family took that away from him? Wow, what would that, that would be like just taking away a piece of him, right? So they have to keep their eye on him. They have to understand, but at some point they're going to have to step in and say, "Hey, Dad, can you show me how to do this? Hey, Dad, can I install the wood for you? Hey, Dad, I don't know why the belt came off the machine. Maybe I can get the repairman over here to fix it." They're going to have to try to adapt that routine, that task, so that he can keep having that purpose and enjoyment. And so we really want to look at how we modify that situation rather than taking it away. Now, so first of all, we want to also, so on chart 13, talk about identifying that danger. We need to understand when and why it occurs. We also want to understand the repercussion. Okay, so, our dad's cutting the chainsaw. That's pretty extreme repercussion if he slips. But if we watch him and he's using it instinctually, and everything's going okay, then which outweighs which? It seems to me like taking that away from him, that repercussion outweighs the danger of him using it. Now, for Mom, the danger occurs at mealtime because she finds herself in the kitchen, and we want to reduce the dangers in there, get those chemicals out of there so we don't have any accidents with ingredients. Try to fix the stove such a way that if she can't cook but she's still out there, then we want to look at how we can minimize the danger. And yes, as Susan's saying, if you remove it, replace it with something else, but something that they enjoy. And it might take a few tries to find that new thing, right? But you got to stay creative, and they may not like it as much today, but then tomorrow they do again. So, I keep coming back to the chainsaw, and maybe it's because I'm a guy and I can kind of relate, but what triggered Dad to go cut something in the first place? Maybe it was because a tree had fallen and it was in his line of sight and he could see it out the window. So if we can remove, it's that out of sight, out of mind thought again. If that hadn't been there, would he have been out there running a chainsaw? Probably not, but we would have moved him on to a new task that we'd have to watch. But, so we want to think about what's causing them to go and do what they're doing. And then on chart 14, we talk about adapting the activity. So we want to minimize that danger while still allowing the person to feel accomplished and successful. I call it silently assisting. It's if Mom's in the kitchen and she's trying to cook. And I use the same examples probably in a couple workshops, but if she can't find the salt, you don't say, "Mom, it's in the cupboard, come on." You just go over and grab it out of the cupboard and sit it down by her. And then she's got the salt without anybody pointing out that she couldn't do it. So we silently assist. We kind of, help them through this process and let them still feel purpose, let them still feel accomplished, let them still feel the joy that comes from that. Now, as the disease progresses, obviously the activities have to be simplified. In the beginning, maybe she knew where the salt was, and we didn't have to do that part. We just had to be out there helping her cut things up or something. But as eventually, we're probably going to prepare the whole meal while she sits over here and reminds us what's supposed to go in it, or she cuts things up for us, or we simplify it so that she still feels involved, still feels that stimulation and that purpose. And I know, again, it's not easy because you can't watch them constantly, but we want to, by doing that, we can turn these dangerous situations into opportunities to do things together. Now, if you're by yourself and you don't have other support and you're trying to wash laundry, take care of the kids, and keep your eye on dad who's out in the yard trying, getting in trouble, I understand that's a really tough situation, but, we want to try to get some family over, try to get some friends over, try to take that situation, get dad in the house, working on something else with you, or, back to preparing dinner with mom, rather than taking her out of the kitchen totally and sitting in front of the TV. Now you're out there with her and you're building a good, time together and having that enjoyment and that fun, if you will, fun. So with the chainsaw, I keep coming back to that for some reason. I'm thinking, what would I do if it was just me? And I'd probably sneak out there at night and I'd probably take the gas out of it if I really thought he was in danger. First, I'd get the tree out so he wouldn't want to cut. But if he still was walking around looking for things to cut, I'd possibly go out there and take the gas out at night. And then when he can't get it started, I'd be like, okay, Dad, we'll go to the gas station in about an hour or so, and I would get him to move on to something else, right? I'd figure out a way, or if he seems to have an endless supply of gas, I'd somehow foul the spark plug or something just so he couldn't get it started. But understanding that I'm going to create another point of agitation probably, unless I can replace it with something and get them thinking about that. So we want to take these dangerous situations, we want to identify them, we want to reduce them, but we don't want to completely remove them if we can avoid it, because we want them to be able to feel that accomplishment. So now back to the home. So I'm moving on to the last chart now. If you can, you should try to get professional help in the home to make your home safer and more stimulating. And again, I know it's not possible for everybody, but you need to reach out into your community and find out what choices you have. Some communities have tiered levels of things for people at different income levels. Some of you may not need to worry about that. Others of you may not have any money at all, but you still need to reach out and see what your community offers. I highly recommend, I'm a little biased because I'm married to an interior designer, and they're not interior decorators who just, throw pillows here and paint the walls. I mean, she's actually trained to widen doorways. I mean, she's not going to do it herself, right? But she's going to draw up the plans to help someone widen a doorway so that a wheelchair can come through safely. She, an interior designer, they do also do the paint colors and the decorating side too, but they can help modify and put in flooring that's consistent throughout the house so that someone shuffling their feet is not going to trip over a threshold. They actually have a lot more value now. Most of them aren't going to be dementia or Alzheimer's trained or specific. Some of them are, but they're going to be hard to find. So it's always best, of course, if you can get a referral. And start by reaching out. If you're in a support group, ask people in your support group. Maybe if you're on one of the Facebook forums, ask there. But there are professionals who are certified to modify homes for people with unique needs. So, and then occupational therapists are another great resource. They help people perform at their highest capability by helping them successfully accomplish everyday activities. So they help them figure out ways to bathe, to eat, to use the restroom. So these occupational therapists, I believe, are another highly underutilized resource out there. And it's a really great place. You got to look for one. You don't have to, but try to find one that understands the complexities of dementia, or Parkinson's is another area where, so they're becoming more knowledgeable in, and reach out to them. So your best team there is going to be an interior designer with an occupational therapist. You can also reach out to some social workers, check what your community offers, and go from there. So we're coming up at the 45-minute mark, and Becky, occupational therapists, have really helped my husband adjust to losing his fine motor skills. Yes, great. Suggested using a large cup to put his meds in so he doesn't fumble with them. Yeah, that's great. I think I met occupational therapists when I was at in the fall prevention program in my county I mentioned, and they're just a really great resource. And they, Dee also, she's saying that associations for independent living have great resources also. So yeah, so I want to pop up. So I have an article that I wrote that gives you some links to help find professionals. So I'm going to pop up that link right now, and so you should see that link to my article pop up on your right-hand side of your screen. You can go over there and check that out. And at the bottom of it, it talks about how to find some of these resources. Nothing's easy, unfortunately. I wish I could tell you could just push a button and this qualified professional would show up to help you. And, unfortunately, you probably already know it doesn't work that way in life. And it really doesn't work that way when you're talking about dementia, right? Getting the right information, the right help is a huge struggle for many people. So, well, that's really all I have. I appreciate and everyone coming on here today, and taking time out of your busy day to meet with us, if you will, virtually, and learn. And I'd love to hear your feedback when you'll get the replay in a couple of days if you want, and you can download the audio clip now, so you can listen to listen to my wonderful voice again for while you're on the go, working out, or in your car. So don't forget to visit us over at Together in This, where you can find all the previous workshops also, and reach out to me, let me know what else I can do to help you. If you find this training of value, I'd love to take it to another, the next level, and have it again and teach you more. So always feel free to communicate with me, whether it's any email, reply to it, let me know what you're thinking, and we'll go for there. And now, if you didn't, sign up for the empowerment series, make sure you do that. You can, I think I'll pop that. I want you to be able to get to the article, so I don't want to pop that up right now. But so take your time and check out that article, and then let me pop up the link for the empowerment series. So if you haven't registered yet, go ahead and click on that yellow sign up now button and sign up. So you're welcome, Virgie. Thanks, Susan. Appreciate everybody. Patty. Oh, that's awesome. You have an appointment with an occupational therapist next week. That's great. Make sure she knows, or he knows, I'm being sexist there, that you know what you're dealing with. I'm sure you have, but you really want to get somebody that's sensitive to the needs of someone with Alzheimer's and dementia. And all right, well, thank you, everybody. Keep your eyes open. We'll be having another workshop probably in about 3 weeks. And I really appreciate everybody being here. And you have a great and empowered day. Bye-bye.